Welcome to the Soul Engineering Your Life podcast. I'm Ravi Tangri, your Soul Engineer. I work with business owners, CEOs, and professionals to help them grow their business and get their life back. And this podcast is designed to help you step out of the busyness, out of the crazy, and bring more heart and soul into all of your life.
Check it out, check it out. Oh, are you ready for this?
Summer of 2009, and my wife and I just decided to end our marriage. On top of that, when we married, we merged our consulting companies. So we have to separate our businesses now. We told our son and my stepsons, her sons, about this, told our families, but not many others yet. It broke my heart to see my parents' faces when we told them. I'm heading down to Orlando for some meetings. I'm on the national board of the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, CAPS, on track to be president in 2011. And every summer we have a 2-day in-person board meeting prior to the convention for our sister association in America, the National Speakers Association. So many of my closest friends are in CAPS and our sister associations as well. And I'll be seeing most of them at the convention. I'm dreading it. It really feels like I've failed. How am I going to keep up a positive face when it feels like my life is falling apart? Fortunately, the board meetings are intense. Everyone on the board works incredibly hard for our members, so I can stay focused there. But they still notice. I see glances here and there, and the first night out to dinner, Paul asked me what's happening. He and I haven't just served CAPS together. We've worked on an intense project in Doha, Qatar in the last 2 years. So I tell him, and you know what? I don't break into a million pieces, and he doesn't think any the less of me. Go figure. And then over that evening and the next day, a couple of other friends approach me and I share what's happened with them. And their support is amazing. Then it's time for convention. It's hard to describe CAPS and NSA. When registration starts, it can take an hour to cross the lobby because you're hugging so many people and authentically hugging and loving them. We only see each other usually once or twice live at the NSA convention in the summer and the CAPS convention in December. And of course, the first question is, how's it going? What's new? Now that I've realized I'm not being judged or seen as a failure, I do open up more to some of my friends. Not in the lobby, of course, but in private conversations the next few days. I'm overwhelmed by the support and the love. And it's not just emotional support. Tony helps me rebrand my business now that I am going solo again. Crystal helps me understand some of what I was stuck in to help me move beyond it. Nabil helps me get clarity on the gifts I still bring to the world. What's even more wonderful is how my friendships deepen beyond what I thought was possible. Throughout this week, and in all the years since then, I've had such incredible, meandering conversations that go from deep and philosophical to silly and irreverent in a heartbeat. These are my peeps. It's such a joy when you discover them. I suddenly realized how much I'd been isolating myself, even before my marriage was falling apart. caught in the trap of busyness with everything I had to do for everyone. But I had to break the ice and reach out first. Before, I thought I was being strong. I'd always isolated myself in crisis. I would find my way through. What I didn't realize was that it wasn't strength at all. I was as fragile as a piece of delicate crystal. I come to realize that isolating yourself not only blocks your feelings, holding them in to fester rather than to work through, it also blocks you from receiving all the love that's out there for you. Times like this, it's so easy to see yourself as a failure and imagine how others would judge you, and you spiral downwards into a pity party. As my friend David reminds me, I'm always there for others, and I don't judge them when they're facing challenges. Given that, he says, it's a little hypocritical of you to act this way, isn't it? Boom. It's only now that I open up and let myself receive that I discover just how strong I truly am, not just within myself, but with the love and support of all those who truly care for me. And the only thing that kept me from receiving all of this and finding the strength was me. I've run into this so often with my coaching clients. They do everything for everyone else, but they're afraid to ask for or receive help. And so they deny their greatest strength until we work through that. Where can you open the door, reach out, and let yourself receive? It's the
I know I got this. Just watch me do this.
I'm so excited. My guest is Dr. Shahab Anari, who is he runs North Star Success, and he has been an entrepreneur for about 21 years. We were just chatting earlier about this in 3 different countries. And you actually started out training as a medical doctor.
I did, yeah. First of all, thanks, Ravi, for having me on your show. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here with you. So yeah, I started as a medical doctor. I trained as a medical doctor. I graduated, but I never practiced medicine.
Okay. So I'm curious about that. Well, first of all, let's go even before that. Did you have any sort of entrepreneurial ventures before you even went to college? Or was this something that came to you after or during that process?
Oh, yeah. So I don't know if I can call it entrepreneurial spirit, but honestly, before I went into college, my brother and I authored a book. It was like a test prep book for high
Okay.
school students. We have this massive nationwide university entrance exam in Iran, where I am originally from. And my brother and I, he's 10 years older than I am. He was a medical doctor at that time. I was a high school student. So we worked with each other and created this booklet, this test prep pamphlet. And that was our first entrepreneurial project. It failed miserably. We lost a lot of money in that first project, but again, it kind of started me off in the world of subject matter experts, if I may say. So as a high school student, I became an author, and when you become an author, you get that credibility. People start paying attention, and
I
it grew
love
from
that.
there.
So you did have something in there that said, how do we create this? How do we do more
Mhm.
as we move forward? So what was then, why, I have to ask then, why medical school?
It was the traditional practice. It was common practice. So it ran in my family. My
Mm-hmm.
elder brother, my elder sister are both doctors. They still practice. My sister lives in Australia. She's a specialist, pediatrician. My brother lives in the UK. He's a specialist again, ear, nose, and throat specialist. But I was the black sheep in the family. I went to med school. And I graduated from med school, but I didn't like it. I wasn't passionate about it. And you know
Yeah.
what? When I even thought about going to the emergency room and doing, honestly, I'm being totally honest.
I appreciate
Doing
that.
the night shifts, I was horrified. It was terrible. And I finished med school because the decision to leave medicine and start something else is not an easy decision to make, as
Yes.
you can consider that. So I it took me a while, a few years, until I finally made the decision to leave medicine and dedicate myself full time to being an author, speaker, and teacher. So I
So
finished
you
med
knew
school.
that was coming for a while.
Yes, you know what? When I entered med school, because again, it's another thing to share with your audience, and you may not know. There's this fierce nationwide university entrance exam in Iran. More than 1 million contenders participate.
Really?
Yes, I ranked first in that exam 20 something years ago.
Wow.
So among more than 1 million people in that exam. So I was pretty known. And high school students kind of knew me, the families knew me. And when I was a medical student, people kept coming to me and asking me for advice. The parents asked me to coach their kids and their children and to teach them the test prep skills and techniques. So I started off as a side job. I was not really it was not really a full-time thing, or I was not even considering it as a career. It was just a way to make a few bucks. But I started off that way, and it grew. Apparently, I was really good at that, and so it grew. And you know what? Medicine, it was coming down. This coaching, teaching thing, it was going up, and eventually, I pivoted.
You just got excited with that, yes.
Yeah, I know.
So, and I do understand, because in my culture as well, there's the expectations. I was lucky that my parents didn't really push, but as an empath, you can feel, right, that they
Mhm.
want you. And I went about back then for me, I was a geeky kid. I went as far as I could, and I went into nuclear physics, which was
Wow.
reasonably interesting. But for them, they're going like, what? They could not understand what it was, right? Because it
Mhm.
was lawyer, doctor, engineer was the traditional.
Exactly.
So I totally understand the expectations. So you satisfied them with all that, coming first in the test out of 1 million. That's remarkable. And you graduated, and then you said, okay, I'm going this way.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I can imagine the reactions.
You know what? Honestly, my parents didn't put a lot of pressure on me
Mhm.
because they saw that I was happy, I was making good money, and I was getting the positive feedback from my audience. So they were not really concerned about my future. They knew that I was doing a good job. But again, just picture me in a family where everybody is a doctor. You're the one that's taking another path, and you're being unique and different. And but again, my parents, they kind of supported me, and I'm thankful for
Yeah. And it's a path also that in the Eastern cultures is not widely understood,
that. That's
right?
true.
So
Hmm.
they really had to trust in you
Yeah,
that you knew what you were doing.
yeah, and it was a lesson for me. Honestly, I have two little ones at home right now, and when I look back at my parents and how they treated my crazy decisions at the time,
Yes.
I'm using that in my parenting, right? So trusting the kids with their decisions, and creating that space for the kids to
Right.
make choices. Does
They
that make
have that
sense?
wisdom. They have the wisdom inside.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. So you said that you started out coaching med students. How did your business evolve as you started, moving into becoming an author and such? How did you had this passion that you were following? How did that evolve? How did you concretize what you were doing, or did you already have a sense of what you really wanted to do?
Honestly, it happened really fast for me because I was coaching. I was not coaching med students. I was coaching high school students
Okay.
to help them prepare for the nationwide exam. So I already had the credibility because I already
Hmm.
ranked first in that exam a few years back, and I knew my stuff. I knew the material, so I was pretty successful in that, and it happened really fast. So the book was successful, the coaching and the teaching was successful, and the main thing was that I had to make the decision. It was happening for me. I was being recognized. I was being noticed, and it was happening for me. I was being invited all over the country to speak to people, to coach students, to speak at student seminars and stuff, even on TV as a guest expert. So it was happening for me really fast. The only thing was that should I pursue this or not, or should I
Right.
keep, do the medical thing? It's safe, becoming a medical doctor. Even now in North America where we live, being a doctor is a safe career, right? It's
Yes, it is.
difficult. It's difficult, very competitive, but it's really safe. So it was a choice between taking the safe
Hmm.
path and taking the crazy path, which I was passionate about.
Right. That you felt in your heart.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So, how about the transition from coaching students to coaching adults and businesses and such?
yeah.
How did you make that transition?
So that's where the entrepreneurial spirit comes in. So
Okay.
the coaching students was a side job for me.
Hmm.
It grew fast. I became really good at that, became very successful. But again, I didn't consider it as a career.
Right.
But when I finished med school and I devoted myself to this coaching, teaching, training field,
Yes.
then I thought, okay, this is not enough. I want to go bigger. I want to be bigger. I want to make more impact. I want to be more successful. I don't want to be that one person doing their thing on their own, um, how big that might be. So I thought I need to expand my business. So I started my own academy, my own institute. I started recruiting other teachers and trainers to work for me. I started training assistants to help me out, making systems, creating systems,
Right.
so that I could not completely remove myself from the business, but I could delegate some of the work to other people, create products and services so that I won't have to trade, hour for dollar, I
Yes.
may say. So creating systems, training people, and that was when the entrepreneurial spirit kicked in.
Okay. And so you built this entire business in Iran, and then you came to a point, I think you said your wife was doing postdoc studies, that you
Yeah.
moved to the Netherlands. Were you keeping the business going in Iran at the time? at that
Yes,
time?
that's true. Yes, my wife was doing her PhD in immunology, and for her sabbatical, we spent a few months in the Netherlands, and we used to go back and forth. We used to travel a lot. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we took we went abroad a few times a year, so I was familiar with how people live their life outside of Iran. But that
Yes.
specific period of time where we actually lived in the Netherlands opened my eyes to new possibilities. So I thought maybe I'm reaching a ceiling in Iran. And if I want to go bigger, if I want to make more impact, if I want to be really more fulfilled, I need to settle in another country where there are more opportunities. So and my wife and I considered different options: Europe, North America, Australia, and eventually we applied for immigration to Canada.
So were you building also, you said you were maintaining your Iranian business. Were you also building a business in the Netherlands while you were there?
Honestly, I was thinking about building a business in
Yeah.
Canada. So it was a
Okay.
transition. It was not that long of a period. It was a transition, less than a year between Iran and Canada. But I was working hard to make sense what I'm going to do in Canada,
Right.
what kind of a business I want to run in North America, how I can qualify, how I can train to prepare myself for that environment.
Okay. So then you made the transition to Canada. Are you still running your business in Iran?
Honestly, my systems are still working
Mm-hmm.
because just like I shared with you, I trained people, I created a lot of products and services. So the products are still selling, the people are still working. I do have a small business. I don't have a running business, but I do have products that are still selling in Iran.
Excellent. So yeah, because it's again building the systems, right? That
Yeah,
move forward.
yeah,
So then coming to Canada, in some ways, you've got all of this experience, but you're also starting over,
yeah.
because nobody knows you. You've got, you've got the new culture, all of that. So what did you find you learned the most in that first year or two here as you were building your foundations?
It was really hard. The first year was really, really hard. I obviously did my coach certification program here, took a couple of courses, got the credentials. But I hit a wall after the first year in business because I was not getting the results that I hoped for. I was following the advice that the gurus were
Mm-hmm.
giving out. I was following those people who are leaders in the field of personal development, business development, and I wanted to be a business coach, helping
Yes.
people build their brands, personal brands. That's what I'm doing right now. I wanted to be that business coach, that authority that could help people build their brands. But I wasn't seeing any results. I was following the traditional advice: go to networking meetings, post on social media, ask for referrals, um, write a blog, write an article, speak on stages, but I wasn't seeing the results. So
Yes.
after the first year in business, I hit a wall. I started getting anxiety attacks. I almost fell into depression, and I had this I've had a chronic disease. It's called IBD, inflammatory bowel disease, for quite a
Yes.
while, and I went into a flare. So it was really, really difficult. And people who are immigrants or who have immigrated at some point in their lives know that this is a common experience among immigrants.
Okay. So how did you find your way through that? Because you're in this new country with, not a whole lot of supports
Yeah, yeah, that's
and,
good.
and such, I can appreciate being an immigrant myself here. Right. So
Yeah.
what, what, how did you find your way out of that? Because sometimes when you start there, it can almost be a downward spiral.
Yeah, that's true. So, because of what I had been doing previously, I had this self belief that I
Mm-hmm.
could make it work. And that self belief and that perception of who I am kept me going. So I didn't change the ideal vision. The
Mm-hmm.
ideal vision remained the same, but I went to plan B. So I changed my plan, but I didn't change my goal. And that's something I always share with people who are just starting out. Don't change your vision. Don't change your ultimate goal. If it's not working, change the plan. And take another path. So I became a student of marketing and sales. Although I was pretty successful at marketing and sales back in Iran,
It's
I knew that
completely different, right?
completely different. So
Yeah.
I started getting myself familiar with with what's working here in Canada, and then I came across uh, people like Ryan Dice and Russell Brunson and Brandon Bouchard and those types of people, and I started learning from them, and I started implementing what they were teaching. I would say uh, maybe 50% of what they were teaching didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
I followed the steps exactly, every single step, but the other 50 worked. And that's the beauty of, trying out new stuff. You can't expect that every single thing that you do or people tell you to do will work. It won't.
Exactly.
And you have to try. There is no recipe. There is no set formula. There is no set, steps that you will follow and you will. It's guaranteed for you to succeed. You have to try. You have to, give it a try. So I did. To put it briefly, I did. I followed the steps, and one thing that helped me eventually make it, I can say, is becoming familiar with the concept of sequence of offers. And I realized that it's not enough to be really good at what you do. It's not enough to be an expert in your field. It's not enough to put stuff on social media or to go to networking or whatever. You have to have a funnel. You have to have a sequence of offers.
Right. And just in terms of this, something I don't want to brush by this point where you said that half of what people said didn't work for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, you've got to figure out what works in your business model, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's one thing that we say. We're both members of CAPS, the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. And one of the things we say is if you ask 10 people about what to do with your problem, you'll get 12 answers.
That's true.
And then you have to figure out, okay, what works? And they will all be adamant, this is the way to do it because it worked for them. But it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So you have to really say, okay, that worked for them. What fits, what doesn't, and have that discretion to say, what do I make work for me?
True. That's so true. And you won't realize what will work for you unless you give it a try, right?
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, I love that you embraced your very first venture and that we failed miserably. I mean, tell me, am I right or wrong in that you can't really say that you are an entrepreneur if you have not failed many times?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even now, I'm a nobody. I'm still a nobody in North America. But right now, I have a thriving business here, and people look up to me as a leader in my field. But even now, out of every 10 reach outs, 8, 9 of them is a no for me. So I'm always getting no's. I'm always being rejected. And people look up to me and ask me what to do. Okay, this is what I'm doing. But 9 times out of 10, it won't work. But you have to still keep doing it, right?
Right. Because it's that those one times add up.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, for you found that the key is the funnel. So people have to learn to trust you with a low risk purchase. Mm-hmm. And then they can take a step up to another level and to another, so that as they build trust in you, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Building trust one step at a time and having that structure, well thought out plan. And at the same time, while you're building that sequence of offers and putting them in place, yes, you have to post on social media, you have to write your book, you have to speak at events, you have to do all the different marketing things to create visibility. So on the one hand, you have to create visibility and credibility, and on the other hand, you have to have a really well thought out sequence of offers that you can walk people through.
Absolutely. So, how has your passion for making the difference, how has it evolved and shaped itself through this journey? That calling that you have, that you've had from the beginning.
Yeah.
How would you say that has either evolved or refined through this journey?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I sometimes think about that. And you know what? You never have the perfect answer. What's my calling? What's my purpose? And what's my journey all about? You're constantly it's constantly unraveling itself. You're constantly getting to know yourself better. But to answer your question, I think my calling has always been helping people, become successful. In a nutshell, realize their untapped potential,
Mm-hmm.
to put it in more beautiful words. But at some point, I was doing it through helping high school students. At
Mm-hmm.
some other point, it was helping university professors and then business owners in Iran. And now it's all about helping subject matter experts, coaches, consultants build their personal brand. So I think the overarching theme stays the same, which is helping people, tap into their untapped potential. But my niche has changed, my audience
Right.
has changed, and I've got more and more clear who I want to work with, and who can benefit from my experience and expertise.
So that's what I was thinking. You are getting more clear. You're honing in and refining. So your message is probably becoming much more clean,
Yeah.
which is probably nudging those 1 in 10s towards a 2 in 10.
Yeah, that's true. Honestly, since I started my business in Canada, I've honed it more and more. So I started working with a large variety of entrepreneurs, but over the past 2 3 years, I've focused on my ideal clients, those who really need me and need my services and products.
Mm-hmm.
And since I do personal branding, my ideal clients are coaches, consultants, and subject matter experts.
Right. Now, one thing I'm curious about, because right now there's a huge awareness out there on privilege
Mm-hmm.
in our society because of the Black Lives Matter
Yeah.
movement. I'm curious your experience. Something racism is something I've seen in all the countries I've lived in my life. It's not something I dwell on. I just move forward, but I'm aware of the existence. I'm curious for you what you have found in your journey here. Has this been something you've had to adapt to since moving here at times?
So I can't say I've faced racism, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
personally. Um, Maybe it's because maybe I faced racism, but I brushed it off,
Right.
because that's who I am. I don't really care about people's opinions, and I'm just focused on my vision and what I'm doing for my audience. But I would say that, and you know it as an immigrant yourself. Um, Being an immigrant is difficult in itself. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter if you live in the best country in the world, which is Canada, in my opinion, or you live in a racist country. It doesn't matter. Being an immigrant in and of itself is really difficult. Especially when you immigrate as an adult, in your 30s, 40s, sometimes 50s. It's really difficult because you're starting from scratch. You have left everything behind. You have no network. You have to sometimes learn a new language, and it's really difficult. You have to juggle so many different things. So back to your question, I personally think immigrants. I can talk about immigrants, not other
Mm-hmm.
minority groups, but immigrants are still at a disadvantage in Canada although Canada is the best country in the world, in my opinion, I think there's this hidden bias towards immigrants. A lot of immigrants are skilled people.
Yes.
Some are wealthy entrepreneurs. They have rich backgrounds, but again, sometimes they are not taken seriously in Canada because they're immigrants, because they have an accent. And I'm honestly, as one individual, I'm fighting that. I sit on the board of ICF Toronto, International Coaching Federation.
Yes.
And in our last meeting, I said that, diversity and inclusion is alive and kicking in ICF Toronto, because I sit on the board and I am the director of the member meetings at ICF Toronto, one of the biggest chapters of ICF in the world, and I have an accent. So there is this opportunity, right?
Yes.
There is this opportunity for immigrants to show up, but it's really difficult. I can tell you, it's really, really difficult.
Yeah, and there are challenges, and I guess this is getting at what they say about what privileges. You don't know it if you've got it. A lot of times you don't appreciate it. And like you, I don't, I don't dwell on if someone doesn't like me. Okay, that's their issue. But you can be aware of it, right? And I think it's a presence that is there, but it's a choice to dwell or not sometimes. Yeah. So you have, I know that from our conversation in December, you built an amazing business where you have these, one of the things in your funnels, you have these conferences of your own of 100 or 200 people, and all of that has been impacted now with COVID. So we were chatting earlier how you were always doing online before, but maybe people were more resistant. But have you been able to shift your business to adapt to all of this?
Yeah, yes, that's a very good question. So COVID has taken its toll on all of us emotionally, mentally, business. And honestly, my heart goes out to people who have suffered, lost loved ones. I don't want to be dismissive of the fact that COVID has affected us really badly. But at the same time, it has opened up new doors. So just like you said, part of my business has always been running events. And most of the events that I did pre-COVID were in-person events. But because of COVID, we moved everything online. I had been doing online events before, but people didn't like it, didn't welcome it. So we moved everything online, and it has opened up doors to new possibilities. Over the past 3 months, I may say I've run more than 10. I've produced more than 10 events. At one of them, I got more than 8,000 registrants from all over the world. It's unbelievable. Even in my 20-something years of experience, I had never been able to, produce an event with thousands of people registering from all over the world. So the possibilities is still there. So back to your question, yes, I have pivoted. I've moved my events online, and I think the principles are the same. If you want to produce the event, 90% of what you do, if it's online or in person, it's the same.
Yes.
So I use the same principles, created those events, and all of my events in the past 3 months have been free to attend. So I just wanted to provide value to my audience, and I just wanted to show up for them as a leader and help them and provide value, and it's been tremendously received, I may say.
That's wonderful. So I'm curious, with all that you've come through. You spoke about that time, that first year or so here, where it was, you were really shaken by the challenges. If you were now to go back and speak to that Shahab, what would you say?
Trust the process. Trust the process. You will get there. Keep doing what you're doing. You will get there. And honestly, One of my heroes is Dr. Peter Diamandis. I don't know if you know him, the author of Abundance and Bold, and I think he's one of the founders of Singularity University, X Prize Foundation. He talks
Oops.
exponential reality. Are we still good? Can you hear
Yes. Yeah. You just
Yeah.
blipped for a second.
Yeah.
Anyhow, he talks about.
So exponential realities, exponential technologies, exponential wisdom. And he says that when you're at 0.04, if you double your results, it's still 0.08. It's nothing. But when you increase your results exponentially, when it doubles and doubles and doubles and doubles, then when you double a million, it becomes 2 million.
Yes.
Right? So again, back to your question, trust the process.
Yeah. The metaphor that I use sometimes is that you may have heard it is that if you've got a pond and you've got lilies on there, let's say if the lilies double every day, right? So you start with one lily pad, next day you've got two. It's like whatever. Mm-hmm. One day before the pond is fully covered, how full is it? It's half full.
Half full.
2 days before, it's only a quarter full. 3 days before, it's an eighth full. So it doesn't look like there's much at all. But it is, as you say, that process and the doubling and doubling and the doubling.
Yeah.
That, yeah. When you're at the first pad, you have to be trusting. Yeah.
And let me add that comment that you have to course correct as well. It's not that you have to, it's not wise to keep doing what's not working. You have to course correct. You have to pay attention to your results. You have to measure. But even if you think you're doing the right thing, but you're not seeing the results, just keep doing it. The results will show up in the future.
So it sounds like you're very much like me in that we're still scientists from our original training. That you need to be scientific about it. You test, prove, test the hypothesis, yes, no, boom.
Yeah. Making data-driven decisions, right?
Okay, so here's a question for you. Data-driven, but how important is intuition for you?
I really trust my intuition, honestly.
Yeah.
Sometimes the data is not there, but my gut is telling me that this is the right thing to do.
Yes.
So I make that choice. It's a choice at that moment. But most of the time, I try to pay attention. For example, I was sharing with one of my clients yesterday. He was asking me, Shahab, you always say, post on social media daily. What do I post about? I've run out of content. What do I post about? And I was telling him that survey your audience, ask them questions. And I always do that even to this date. So I always put these stories on Instagram and the ask me a question, the kind of a story on Instagram. So, and I pay attention to what people put in there. There's always a thread. There's always a pattern. If you pay attention, if you're mindful, you can find that pattern. And based on that pattern, you can make the next decision. So back to your question, I make data-driven decisions, but sometimes I make the choice to trust my intuition and go and do otherwise.
So if you have data on one hand and you have your intuition on the other, and they're not totally aligned, what do you choose?
I don't have a clear answer to that, honestly, but I would say I'd go with my intuition.
Yeah. And that's for me as well. I found that even when it's not necessarily logical, somehow there's an inner knowing that knows more than we do.
That's the higher coach within you, right?
That's right. So, in coming to that, we've talked about the challenges with that and how you've adapted through the pandemic and such. There's a lot of entrepreneurs and you work with a lot of entrepreneurs who are struggling at this time because they've had to stop their business. The way they do business will not work right now in this new world. And they're going, some are like, give up almost. What would you say to them at this time in terms of finding a way forward?
Yeah. So I think it's time to do two things. To be creative. So you have to be creative, right? And entrepreneurs are creative people in essence, right? Entrepreneurship is all about being creative. So you have to be creative and tap into our creative skills so that we can find a way forward, so that we can find the solution, so that we can pivot. We can create new services, new products, go after new audiences. So one thing is to be creative. And the other thing is to care. Because I see so many entrepreneurs, are, struggling financially. They want to, and it's totally understandable. I don't want to be dismissive about that. They want to make money. It's been going on for 3 months right now, this COVID thing.
Yes.
So, but people are not ready to spend. I'm not saying that nobody's spending, but people are spending less. They're being more vigilant about their spending. So I always say, just care. And if you think about, even if you think about it in terms of a funnel, when you care, you're filling the top of the funnel. It's not that you're not doing anything about your business. You are doing something for your business, but you're filling the top of the funnel. Maybe you're not moving people down the funnel so that they become actual paying customers, but you're filling the funnel. Let me share this with you. Since COVID started, just like I said, I've produced more than 10 events.
Yes.
Some of them big summits, some of them smaller webinars. I have added 10,000 people to my email list. And the events have been free. So I've cared, I've shown support for my audience, but I've added a lot of people into my funnel. So even if I think about it business-wise, some of them will eventually become paying customers in the future. I'm not worried about, converting them into paying clients right now, but I know that this will happen in the future. So again, care. I think that's the best thing we can do as a leader.
And I mean, I know it's challenging for people who are feeling strapped financially, but the challenge too is that if you go into that fear, that's of not having, then that's more likely what you're going to create.
That's true. Whatever you focus on, it expands, right?
Yeah. And so it's then, to me, the work is, how do I heal, release, diffuse the fear so I can respond to the situation right now? And as you say, to serve, to get to care. And I heard that very clearly earlier when you said that you've done 10 events and they're free. That's wonderful. So Shahab, I truly want to thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ravi, for having me. It's been a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been a delight for me to get to know more about you. And I appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your insights so much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. And if you found it of value, could I ask you a favor? Could you share it on social media and perhaps share what made it so useful to you? That's how we spread word about this. And if you've got a moment, if you could go onto iTunes or wherever you get your podcast and do a quick review on this and share again what made it so useful to you. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Running 'cause I don't know where to go. Walking will just take too long if I can take it slow. I'll keep on pushing 'cause I know I'll take it farther. And everyone that knows me knows that I am stronger. Leave it all behind, I don't need nothing